So this presentation is about art in the City of Orem and the City of Orem's art collection. This presentation was made by Holly Grierson and Nathan Robison. First of all, why invest in public art? A quote from the Americans for the Arts Public Art Network Council says, "Cities gain value through public art, cultural, social, and economic value. Public art is a distinguishing part of our public history and our evolving culture. It reflects and reveals our society, adds meaning to our cities and uniqueness to our communities. Public art humanizes the built environment and invigorates public spaces. It provides an intersection between past, present, and future, between disciplines, and between ideas. Public art is freely accessible." The City of Orem also invests in public art for many of these reasons. An example that you see here is a project to beautify the city by using artists to paint our utility boxes. The one that you see was painted by Orem resident Jess Smiley. We're going to highlight some of the works in the City of Orem's art collection.
The Orem City Art Collection started in the late 1960s at the encouragement of Orem Mayor Winston Crawford. The library was moving from its home on State Street to its current location, and more art was needed to decorate the walls of the library. The collection developed over time by purchase and donation. Artist and art educator Max Weaver was instrumental in developing the collection. He was a faculty member at BYU from 1961 to 1982. He solicited donations from many of his fellow teachers. 7 of Weaver's paintings and sculptures are in the collection. Weaver called the collection one of the best little collections in the state of Utah. Now the collection has about 170 paintings, original prints, sculptures, stained glass, and pieces of pottery.
The City of Orem's art collection can be accessed in the Orem Library, throughout city buildings, as well as online. Thanks to an LSTA grant from the state of Utah, library staff were able to digitize each piece. You can see here a QR code that can take you to UVU's digital collections, where you can see all the different pieces, learn about the artists and the works themselves.
The first piece we're going to talk about is High Country Landscape by Lorraine Jones from 1938. High Country Landscape was the first piece purchased by the City of Orem. It was purchased in the 1940s by Orem Mayor B.M. Jolly for $2.50, for which he was reimbursed.
Cascade from Orem by Dale Fletcher is the first donated artwork in the collection. Dale Fletcher was an art professor at BYU and a director of BYU's art gallery in the late 1970s. This piece, untitled Treehouse with Three Boys, is one of our largest pieces in the collection and can be seen in the south wing of the library.
Early Spring Sunrise on Mount Timpanogos by Glenn Hollis Holly Adkins was painted in 2003. Adkins was 80 years old when he began Early Spring Sunrise. He had been legally blind for more than 20 years. He divided and worked the painting in 1-inch squares using lighted headgear with a magnifying glass and referring to photographs to create the painting. The Adkins family donated the painting to the city in July of 2009 upon his death, thinking that the piece would be meaningful to Orem residents and admirers of Mount Timpanogos.
Orem native and nationally renowned fantasy artist James Christensen is represented in the city's art collection as well. Christensen was a writer and illustrator known for his fantasy art, as you can see in this piece, Voyage of the Basset from 1996. He also created artwork for the Timpanogos Storytelling Festival. This piece, Springville Barn, is in the city's collection. Unusual for Christensen in its themes, you can nevertheless recognize Christensen's trademark style and in the line, shape, and color of this rural barn. The Big Show by Cassandra Barney was commissioned for the opening of Library Hall. Cassandra Barney is James Christensen's daughter. You can find reference to his works if you look closely at the piece. Cassandra Barney is a former member of the Orem Arts Council and an art teacher at Orem High. The frame for this piece was salvaged from the Salt Lake Temple. She and her father created art and restored art in several of the LDS temples.
This sculpture is called The Family by Avard T. Fairbanks. Avard was one of the best-known traditional realist sculptors in Utah of his time. His work is regularly on display at the Springville Museum of Art, which owns 30 of his works. He also created hood ornaments for the Chrysler Motor Company. He designed a mermaid ornament for the Plymouth, and after that he was asked to design an ornament for the Dodge car. He came up with a ram. Chrysler management asked Fairbanks what a ram had to do with Dodge. Fairbanks replied, "When people see a ram coming down the road, they'll say, Dodge." Jennifer Jenkins Christensen is an artist in our collection that has 4 silkscreen prints, and they're from the 1970s. She grew up in Hawaii, which gave her a love for flowers, and she was also inspired by Georgia O'Keeffe. In the 1990s, Jennifer started experimenting with 3D art by painting flowers on dried gourds. Her work has been shown in several one-woman shows in the United States, 2 international shows in Europe, and her art is also in public and private collections across the country, as well as the Springville Museum of Art. Storming the Gate by Ketta Kollwitz is the next piece we are looking at. Kollwitz was a German expressionist printmaker, engraver, and painter. This is the most famous work in the collection from an art history standpoint. Kollwitz was most known for her dark and powerful depictions of the human condition. Storming the Gate is the 5th etching in her Weaver's Revolt series, which was inspired by a real Weaver's uprising in 1844. This is a good example of the desperation and anguish of the common man that Kollwitz sought to capture. Kollwitz was very successful in her time. She was the first woman elected to the Prussian Academy of Arts in 1928. She was forced by the Nazis to resign in 1933, and after losing her son and all of her possessions in World War II, Kollwitz died in hiding in 1945.
Incoming number 3 by Marty Miller is one of the most iconic pieces in the library. Marty Miller was an industrial sculptor and designer. Incoming number 3 by Marty Miller is one of the most iconic pieces in the library's collection from a patron standpoint. Marty Miller was an industrial sculptor and designer. He held several patents on military equipment that was used by the US and its NATO allies. This work is based on his experience serving in the US Army during the Vietnam War. This is the 3rd of a 3-piece series showing different reactions to combat: fear, action, and recovery.
J. Kirk Richards is the next artist we're going to talk about in the collection. He is a well-known artist of Utah. He's known for his religious and spiritual themes as well as his rainbow works. He is an award-winning artist and also a juror of the spiritual and religious show at the Springville Museum of Art. Toward Mount Pleasant by J. Kirk Richards was commissioned by former librarian Lori Stevens in honor of her mother-in-law who grew up in Star Valley, Wyoming. J. Kirk Richards founded and runs the JKR Gallery and Academy in Provo. The library art team visits the gallery regularly to find local artists for library.
Trevor Southey is one of the most influential of Utah's artists in the 20th century. Southey was born in Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe. He developed his art skills at an early age when he was confined to his bed by rheumatic fever. He studied at Brighton College of Art in the UK and the National Technical College in South Africa. As seen by Motherhood and Motherhood 2, these etchings, his work focuses on spiritual themes, often connected to the human body. Southey converted to the Mormon Church and moved to the United States, where he joined the art faculty at BYU in the 1970s. He was one of the founders of the Mormon Art and Belief movement. The Dreamer by Matt Shurtleff is the largest piece in the City of Orem's collection and can be found on the main floor of the south wing of the library. This piece was commissioned by the library and facilitated by division manager Mike Smith. The image depicts one of the Mercury astronauts, and its themes of discovery fit well with the mission of the library of learning and discovery. You can see a time lapse of the installation on the artist's Instagram account. We hope you enjoyed this brief overview of the City of Orem's art collection. We hope you will come to the library and see these pieces in person, and also visit UVU's digital collections to learn more about each piece and see the collection in its entirety.